In the 1960s and early 1970s, the U.S. space program became deeply involved in the study of the lunar surface, launching its famous and historic Apollo program, also called Project Apollo, led by the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, NASA. The ambitious program, which ran from 1961 to 1972, was notable for landing the first humans on the Moon in 1969, with astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landing on the lunar surface with their Apollo lunar module, and there would be 5 other Apollo missions that would also take U.S. astronauts to the Moon. The program also marked other important milestones in spaceflight, spurred growth in several areas of technology that have had far-reaching effects beyond space travel, and with the many photos and samples of the lunar surface that were taken taught us an unprecedented amount of information about our nearest celestial neighbor. However, there have long been many mysteries and conspiracies surrounding the Apollo program and the Moon, and one of them is the alleged astronaut trainer and keeper of the lunar photos who claims that there were many instances of photos of an alien presence on the Moon, and NASA's efforts to cover it all up. Among the dozens of people who made the whole program work was aerospace engineer, pilot and astronaut trainer Ken Johnston, who he says was one of 4 civilian astronaut consultant pilots who helped train astronauts for the Apollo 11 mission. Hired by Grumman Aircraft Corp., one of Johnston's main tasks at the time was developing and training the cockpit and instruments, as well as testing the lunar mission module in the vacuum chambers to make sure they were safe for flight, incidentally helping to train the astronauts on how to land it. Johnston would later take on other duties, such as working in the Lunar Receiving Laboratory, which was responsible for processing and analyzing various samples taken on the Moon, as well as photographs. Johnston claims that he was in charge of the photographs from 5 of the Apollo missions, which were stored, preserved, catalogued, and often sent to scientists for study and analysis. In fact, Johnston claims that he was the director of the Data and Photographic Control Department, so he had access to all photographic data being sent to Earth from the Moon, including photos, films, and slides. This is where the conspiracies and oddities begin. As the Apollo program began to wind down and most of the samples were sorted and taken care of, Johnston was surprised when his superior, Bud Laskowa, told him to destroy everything that remained of the photographic archive, and special emphasis was placed on making sure that a collection of 8 by 10 glossy prints never saw the light of day. He claims the reason for this was that many of the photos contained strange anomalies that NASA did not want the public to see, and which they were very keen to keep secret, to the point that, according to Johnston, the photos were often altered to cover up anything strange in them, with extensive manipulation and tampering done on them to hide what he says was evidence of some kind of non-human structures on the lunar surface. In an interview with Indian researcher Parvathy Bennu, the scientist stated, "When we finished with the first 3 missions, I was tasked to photograph and document their exact location. One day, my boss ordered me to destroy those images. I reminded him that the government had paid for them and that they should be made public, to which he replied, 'No. Get rid of them. I don't care what you think.' It was because there were elements in the images that were inexplicable. You can see the lunar anomalies as well. It looks like something has been erased. Long before Photoshop, they painted things. Once, when I walked into the photo lab, I saw a woman painting something. She called herself a stripper and said she was getting paid for it. This really bothered me, as I was the one in charge of keeping track of things. I guess that's why they call me a whistleblower." Johnston would end up defying his orders and keeping a set of these photos as part of his personal portfolio and as proof of what he had witnessed. He kept these photos for years, keeping them secret and not daring to show them to anyone until 1995, when Johnston attended a lecture by controversial researcher Richard Hoagland. After the seminar, Johnston allegedly approached Hoagland with his set of photos, and the two of them looked through them together. According to Hoagland, the photos were very intriguing, and definitely showed evidence of an alien presence on the Moon. Hoagland also claimed that he was allowed to scan the prints, which he said allowed him to discover more detail in the analysis, and he would write about the photos in the 2007 book Dark Mission, saying, "In scanning Ken's priceless Apollo 14 C prints, I discovered that the computer could see what the human eye could not, incredible geometric detail in the completely black areas, such as the lunar sky. The sensitivity of modern CCD imaging technology, even in commercial image scanners, coupled with the amazing enhancement capabilities of state-of-the-art commercial software, such as Adobe's Photoshop, allowed the invisible details buried in these supposedly black layers of these 30-year-old emulsions to finally be revealed, a democratization of the technology that no NASA sensor could have foreseen for over 30 years. Hoagland expounded and lectured extensively on these photos, claiming to have found all sorts of anomalies in them that had never been discovered before, but there has been quite a bit of skepticism at these bold claims. A Rational Wiki excerpt has pointed out one of the problems with these scans and Hoagland's claims as follows: of course, scanning cannot reveal invisible details if they really are invisible. Hoagland has made a career out of touting the fact that his scans of the Ken Johnston collection show things that the official scans do not. But, of course, he is comparing, on the one hand, a professionally scanned image from an original negative or internegative made in a clean room and, on the other hand, a photocopy kept in a ring binder for 23 years, taken out and scanned on Hoagland's office scanner, the glass of which is clearly contaminated. For use as PowerPoint slides, Hoagland often increases the brightness, a procedure guaranteed to reveal any scanner contamination anywhere the image is black. The scanners have been branded by skeptics as simply showing imperfections and artifacts on the scanning surface, such as smudges or fibers. Regardless of what the Hoagland scans show, they were responsible for making Johnston's photos public, and Johnston himself would begin to be more open with his original collection, releasing them to the public for free in 2015 and donating the collection to the Roswell International UFO Research Center and Museum. Those who have looked at the photographs themselves have claimed to see all sorts of strange things in them, including satellite dishes, statues, ruins, buildings, and even a lunar alien base with visible lights and structures. Meanwhile, Johnston has traveled and lectured extensively on what he calls a NASA cover-up, as well as conducting several interviews. One of Johnston's most well-known and controversial claims is that there were photos from the Apollo 14 mission that allegedly showed an alien base at Tsiolkovsky, a huge crater on the backside of the moon. Johnston claims that when he first saw the photographs he could see lights and a pentagonal cluster of domes showing that it was clearly a facility of some kind, but that the next day it had all been doctored to erase it. According to him, it had all been erased with an airbrush. This claim has also become controversial, because according to NASA records Apollo 14 never flew over Tsiolkovsky and was never photographed, although Johnston denies this. Despite these harsh criticisms, Ken Johnston has become almost a legend as a NASA whistleblower and disclosure advocate, and over the years his claims have become increasingly outlandish, such as that there are bases on Mars and that he has suffered a hypnotic regression to discover that it was actually aliens who told him to defy NASA and come forward with his bizarre findings. Understandably, this has brought a lot of attention to him, both from ufologists and conspiracy theorists as well as skeptics, who have consistently questioned Johnston's claims, even as controversy surrounds him. One of the red flags that has emerged is that Johnston has increasingly claimed to be a real astronaut, which is false, and has been found to frequently misrepresent himself and exaggerate his credentials, sometimes also labeling himself as a former NASA head trainer, all of which has gotten him in trouble with NASA and the State Department. He has also made other outlandish claims that skeptics have found questionable at best, such as that he has a Doctor of Metaphysics degree, and his close colleague Brett Shepard, who often accompanies him to conferences, has also been a controversial figure within the UFO field. For his part, Johnston has continually fought off his critics and insists that it's all real. We wonder, is there any truth to any of this? Is Ken Johnston real, or is he a fraud? Is he real, or a hoax? It has become a much discussed and debated topic, and it shows that the moon is likely to continue to attract stories like this for some time to come.
I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe to support this kind of content. See you on the next travel.